Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you for joining us. In this half hour, we're having a lot of sports. A lot of sports. A live look at Little Caesars Arena right now, where another professional team will soon be playing. We're talking about the WNBA coming back to Detroit. A good conversation about that in just a bit. But first, a live look at the Big House in Ann Arbor. It's a historic day for college sports. Colleges can start paying up to $20 million of revenue with its student athletes. This comes after a legal battle over fair compensation for their name, image, and likeness. This morning at 6, Jason Aranda talked to the University of Michigan professor Greg Dooley, who teaches a class on NIL. Here's what he had to say about the new revenue sharing and how it can hurt universities.
So even Michigan is taking $15 million from the university proper to help balance their budget this next year they're projecting. So as you can imagine, a lot of universities are constrained because they want to compete in all these sports and have these sports and give this $20 million, but they're trying to find ways and different methods to come up with it. And they're all kind of figuring out in their own way how to do that.
Well, joining us this morning to talk more about this is John U. Bacon, an award-winning author and a U of M alumni. He has been following a lot of things at U of M, but specifically the NIL issues for quite some time. John, thank you so much for joining us. The first question I want to ask you is, how do you think this can change the recruiting process?
It's going to change it dramatically. It's free agency now, basically. And whoever's got the most money is going to probably win a lot of candidates they would not have won otherwise, a lot of prospects. The flip side is if it's done as they are saying it's going to be done, with basically a $20.5 million salary cap, if you will, for payouts directly to the athletes, then in theory, everyone's going to be equal if you're willing to max it out. And I guarantee you that Michigan and Michigan State are both going to max it out. So in that sense, it's supposed to make it equal, but you might recall in the past, Nick, that the NCAA was not that great at enforcing the rules, so I doubt it.
He said with a smirk.
Can't avoid it, Nick. Sorry.
Yeah, right. So, speaking of in terms of fairness for student athletes, do you think there could be some issues with, well, he's making this much, they're paying him this? Do you think there could be some tension on the benches now?
I think there's tension right now, and I think part of the tension becomes when J.J. McCarthy at Michigan, an established quarterback, gets about $1 million to come back for his last year, which was a national title year, I don't think any of his teammates are begrudging that. When Bryce Underwood comes in with $12 million without taking a snap, the attitude is going to be, let's prove it. I think they're probably still grateful to have him. He's the best prospect in all of college football. But you're going to see a lot of tension that you probably do not see in the major leagues because these guys are 17 or 18 years old. They've not done anything yet. And they're competing for the same dollars. So there's going to be tension. I would not want to be a coach in this era.
Yeah. There's been some significant conversation about too much money too young. What are your thoughts on student athletes making this kind of money when they're 18, 19, 20 years old?
Well, my first thought, Nick, is that I'm glad it's not me because I was already dumb enough at 18 without $1 million. So I didn't need this to be any dumber. Look, I think they're going to need some counseling. I think they need financial counseling. They're going to need some psychological counseling to handle it. And again, your teammates asking for money. And what also happens is families ask for money a lot of times because they think that, look, Nick, you and I both know how the IRS works. These guys think that $12 million is $12 million. It's not. It's $8 million to start. And then you peel it back from there. So it's going to be a wild west out there. It's going to be a lot to learn. And I'll also hit upon, Nick, the law of unintended consequences. Nobody knows what's going to happen next, truly.
Right. In terms of competitiveness, obviously Michigan State at the top of the lists. What do you think this starts to do for your D2, D3 schools?
Not even that. Even the MAC schools in the state, the Mid-American Conference, EMU, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, those guys are in trouble. There's no way they're going to compete with the $20.5 million. They're all losing money right now as it is in athletics. What's going to happen, sadly, is a lot of two things are going to happen. One is the lesser tiers are going to become minor leagues for the Big Ten and the SEC. So if somebody at Eastern Michigan has a great season, he wants to get paid and will go across Washtenaw to get more money from the University of Michigan, as an example. The next thing is going to happen is that the EMUs, the CMUs are going to have to start cutting programs almost certainly. So men's gymnastics, women's softball, things like this are going to become targets going forward because none of them make money. And if you're going to put all your money into basketball and men's basketball and football, it's going to cost you somewhere else. So it's going to be a case where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Yeah, wow. Okay, your advice for student athletes who might be watching this, how do you tell them to, I don't know how to phrase this. How do you tell them to take it easy and try to enjoy the sport before the money?
You try to. These are a lot of kids who've been in travel team programs their whole lives, in some cases, not all. They've been gunning for this for a long time. I would say probably get an agent, get a lawyer, and get a good therapist. That'd be my advice.
Okay, and you kind of touched on this a little bit about money issues within the universities now. And Professor Dooley talked about how there's some shuffling of money within the universities to free up more for the NIL. What do you think that'll do for the academic side of things? Do you think we're going to start pulling money from the science labs and the mathematicians?
It seems almost inevitable. I doubt it at Michigan or Michigan State. They're strong enough financially and academically that it's not an issue. But keep in mind, at LSU, their library had flooded. They couldn't afford this during Hurricane Katrina. They couldn't afford to fix it. But meanwhile, the football program is paying, $10 million for a coach and everything else. Mm-hmm. So already in the South, certainly, you've seen these priorities play out in exactly that fashion, where academics are paying the price for these athletics. Now, in some cases, Alabama certainly makes money in athletics. Texas makes money. Texas A&M makes money. So in some cases, it benefits the university, but in many cases, it's going to start costing. So, look, you can only squeeze the balloon in so many places so many times before it pops. So the tensions going forward are going to be many and some unforeseen.
Yeah. Last question for you, John. Again, we kind of touched on this a little bit in terms of, where the headspace is for these student athletes, but coaching them and even therapy, as you kind of talked about there early on. My fear is that you've got a 14-year-old thinking about playing quarterback at, U of M, Notre Dame. Oh, that's a private, so it changed a little bit. But, how do we have this conversation that you need to be part of your team first? You need to be a team player and worry less about the money until it becomes a factor and more about just winning the game.
That's a great question, and you're going to see more of that, of course, more free agency attitudes, if you will, even at 14 or 15-year-olds. What's in it for me? That's going to be harder and harder to coach, I think, but I will give you an example of college hockey. The Blue Bloods, Michigan, Minnesota, Boston University, they all get the top players out of the USA Hockey program. They're 18 or 19 years old. They're future millionaires. They've got agents already. And those teams have not been winning the national title. The ones who have been winning the national title are the ones who get 23 and 24-year-old seniors like Quinnipiac, Western Michigan. Mm-hmm. How about those guys?
Yep.
Yale, Union College, and so on, who are more committed to the team than to their NHL futures. And those are the guys who are winning the national title. So there is hope that team spirit is not dead yet. We're not dead yet, Nick. How's that?
All right, John, thank you so much for your insights today. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the world of college athletics here in the next couple of months.
It will not be boring. I guarantee you that.
All right, John, thank you much. Take care.
Thanks, Nick.